CBS Sports, Major League Baseball.
Welcome to Atlanta, where this afternoon the top two teams in the National League West go head-to-head as the Braves host the San Francisco Giants. On this Memorial Day weekend, the Giants are the surprising leaders of their division. They've been in first place for the last 18 days. But the two-time defending division champion Braves are coming on. They took game one of this series last night to move within 3. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Baseball 93 from Atlanta. I'm Sean McDonough, and it's nice to have you with us. It is only Memorial Day weekend, but it seems already that we've had an unusual number of strange happenings in Major League Baseball, including the firing of Cincinnati manager Tony Perez after just 44 games. Tim McCarver and Jim Cott will have more on that subject a bit later on, but first, let's get you caught up with last night's Major League Baseball highlights. The Dodgers were stinking up the National League early this season, but last night they went after their 10th straight win. Pedro Estacio pitched 7 scoreless innings, and Eric Davis belted a 2-run homer as the Dodgers beat the Pirates 7-2. A less pleasant streak continued at Shea Stadium, where Anthony Young lost his 19th straight game, tying a Mets club record. That helped make Davey Johnson's return a triumphant one. He's now 3-1 as the Reds skipper. Another return home was Fernando to California against his former Angel teammates. Valenzuela received a chilly reception as Chili Davis smashed this home run over a leaping Brady Anderson, as the slumping Orioles took another loss sitting down. Lou Piniella has the Mariners standing tall. They scored 2 in the 9th to tie and then went on to win in the 10th, defeating the Tigers 4-3. In Boston, the former president and Mrs. Bush came down from Maine to take in the ball game. Here, Ivan Rodriguez's towering drive sends Billy Hatcher crashing into the wall in an unsuccessful effort. Hatcher crumpled to the ground. He suffered a mild concussion. His status is day-to-day. That was the only run Rocket Roger gave up, striking out 10, including Jose Canseco. Canseco also had a rough week in the field.
High fly ball, right field deep. Canseco back to the track. Look it out. It is off his head, it looked like. And on the top. A home run.
It did open up another opportunity. Canseco's been offered a contract by the Harrisburg Heat of the National Professional Soccer League.
After he headed the ball, oh, he collided heads with just... Look at this! Boink! And it's out of here!
Now let's head to the rest of the National League scores from last night. Philadelphia had 20 hits, and Darren Dalton drove in 4 runs as the Phillies ripped the Rockies. And in the American League, Jimmy Key tossed a 3-hitter in handing Chicago its 4th straight loss. Coming up next, Jim Cott and Tim McCarver give us their opinions on what was a strange week in Cincinnati. One story that won't quiet down as Baseball 93 continues on CBS.
CBS Sports presents Major League Baseball. Baseball 93 is brought to you by Thompson's Water Seal Waterproofing Formula, the brand to trust for all your waterproofing needs.
Here in Atlanta, they're still talking about what happened Wednesday in Cincinnati. Terry Pendleton added one for the record books when he walked off the field in protest when Marvin Freeman failed to retaliate against Tim Belcher, who hit Deion Sanders with a pitch earlier in the game. It has been that kind of a season in Major League Baseball, and now Tim McCarver and Jim Cott provide us with food for thought, beginning with the firing of Tony Perez in Cincinnati.
Well, it's been said that most folks like sausage in decisions. They just don't want to be involved in the making of either. And I think that could apply with general manager of the Cincinnati Reds, Jim Bowden's decision to fire Tony Perez this last week. I have never seen a community so universally against the firing of a manager as the Cincinnati Reds community has been. I think it was emotionally sound to hire Perez last winter. I think it was more of an emotionally unsound decision to fire him. I mean, Jim Cott, what could Tony Perez have done through 44 games, or for that matter, not have done to warrant being fired so soon? Well, probably the only thing he could have done, Timmy, was prepare himself better to be a manager. You know, here's a man who didn't manage winter baseball in the offseason, even though he might have had a chance. He didn't manage in the minor leagues, so he was not prepared to be a manager. Now, what does that say about the Reds' decision? The general manager hires Tony Perez knowing this. He even went to English courses after getting the job to try to communicate with the media and English-speaking players a little bit. So he was not prepared, and the Reds knew that. And yet they thrust him into a situation, very emotional, as you mentioned, and give him 44 games to try to prove himself as a manager. It is a classic example of using a player like Tony Perez, and it all starts at the top with their ownership. I think it's true that baseball is taking on more of a win-now mentality. Impatience seems to be the byword. And if that's true, why this quote from Jim Bowden back on May 20th? Here's what he said concerning the ineffectiveness of John Smiley. He said, if you're going to evaluate a guy who's won 36 games the last 2 seasons on what he's done on May 19th, well, you better find another line of work. But isn't that exactly what he's done with Tony Perez, evaluate him after a short period of time? And another guy in the National League is glad that he wasn't evaluated in a short period of time, and that's Tommy Lasorda of the Los Angeles Dodgers. The manager since 1977. I mean, he was on some thin ice, but the Dodgers have risen from the ashes and won 10 games in a row with help from everybody in their lineup, plus their pitching staff. And in the American League, another manager who seems to be undergoing a lot of those evaluations is Hal McRae. Now, many think his tirade in the office when he threw telephones and went crazy after a game one day motivated the Royals to start playing better baseball. That might have had a small effect, but actually it's been his son Brian who's really turned things around as a player, hitting over 300, stealing bases. And I think the Royals, with their inner defense with Chico Lean and Greg Gagne at shortstop, Gagne may be the best off-season free agent acquisition, and McRae in center field, along with better production from Wally Joyner, have turned the Royals around like they did like Tommy Lasorda did the Dodgers. And in the American League West, that's important because there is no power team there that's going to run off and leave the pack. Even the Oakland Athletics and the Minnesota Twins, who are last and next to last, are only 6.5 games back. That's a wide open division, and the Royals have a great shot. I think the same could probably be said about the National League West. However, everybody talks about the Atlanta Braves starting pitchers. What about Mike Stanton? He has already set a career save record for an Atlanta left-hander, and it's not even June yet. I think Atlanta still is clearly the pick in the National League West, and I still like the Philadelphia Phillies. I picked them in spring training in the National League East, off to a torrid start, and I see no signs of them letting up. Thanks a lot, Kenny. Enjoyed talking hardball with you. All right, Timmy, me too.
Thank you, gentlemen. That's it for our pregame show. We'll be back with the start of today's game between the Giants and the Braves after this message and a word from your local station. In each of the past 2 seasons, Barry Bonds posted championship numbers. But it was the Atlanta Braves, not Barry's Bucks, who brought home the National League flag. Now Bonds is part of a brave new world, a member of the San Francisco Giants. And his dynamic all-round play has the Giants atop the National League West. Today, it's the Giants and Braves as CBS Sports presents Major League Baseball. And welcome back to Atlanta, where this afternoon the San Francisco Giants look to end their longest losing streak of the season at 3 games in Game 2 of this series with the Atlanta Braves. I'm Sean McDonough along with Tim McCarver, and it's great to have you with us. Barry Bonds in his first year with San Francisco is off and running toward his 3rd Most Valuable Player award in the National League, and he's proving that one man can make a huge difference in baseball.
And Sean, everybody talks about athletes as being role models with children today. Well, that's an arguable point, but one thing that's not arguable is the effect that Barry Bonds has had on his teammates, namely the younger players, Darren Lewis, Royce Clayton, and Kurt Manwaring. And he has been a model of consistency as he is in first place in 6 offensive categories and in the top 5 in 7 more. And he's the best player in the game and has been playing like it.
and is a legitimate Triple Crown threat in 1993. His team, the surprising leader in the National League West at the moment. The Atlanta Braves are in pursuit, but they've been in pursuit each of the last 2 seasons and won the division. And at the moment, their hitting is starting to catch up with the rest of the club.
The Atlanta Braves, however, as far as their average is concerned, as a team, 12th in the National League, but their pitching and defense has gone hand in glove, if you will. They're first in pitching and first in defense, making the fewest errors in baseball.
This afternoon for Atlanta, their 5th starter gets the call. Pete Smith goes for the Braves. He'll be opposed by Greg Brummett, making his major league debut. The first pitch after this.
CBS Sports presents Major League Baseball. Today's game is brought to you by Pontiac and your nearby Pontiac dealers. We are driving excitement. Fleer Ultra baseball cards. Fleer Ultra, you can't buy a better baseball card. And by calcium-rich Tums. Tums helps wipe out heartburn and gives you calcium.
Sellout crowd on hand at Atlanta Fulton County Stadium. Watch the Braves try to make it 2 in a row over the Giants. As Tim said a moment ago, Barry Bonds' abilities have been rubbing off on the rest of his teammates, and he made sure that that happened prior to this afternoon's game. The lineup for the Giants today: Darren Lewis leads off in center field. Robbie Thompson, the second baseman. Will Clark bats third at first base. Matt Williams having a big year batting in front of Bonds, the cleanup hitter, at third base. Bonds hits 5th and is in left field. Willie McGee is the right fielder batting 6th. The shortstop, Royce Clayton, hits 7th. Kurt Manwaring is the catcher batting 8th. And on the mound for San Francisco this afternoon, making his major league debut, 25-year-old right-hander Greg Brummett. 81 degrees, the temperature as we approach game time. It's a bit on the humid side, a light breeze blowing out toward right field, and a slight chance of showers later this afternoon. But at the moment, no threat of rain, and you sense in this ballpark a little bit of the playoff and World Series type atmosphere that we sampled here last fall. This is an important series for both teams, particularly for the Giants, trying to establish themselves as legitimate contenders in their division. Jerry Lane, Paul Runge, the crew chief, Charlie Rutherford, and Dana DeMute worked this ball game as the umpiring crew.
Last summer, the Atlanta Braves, 2 days ago, a year ago, as a matter of fact, the Atlanta Braves were in last place, 7.5 games back of first in the National League West, but they're only 3 back and within striking distance this year. As you see the standings in the National League West, the San Francisco Giants with that great start, and then Atlanta only 3 back. The Houston Astros 24-22, and the Dodgers on the heels of a 10-game winning streak. Cincinnati, under their new manager Davey Johnson, they have won 3 in a row and 3 of 4 since Johnson took over. And a lot of people think that San Diego can't keep Fred McGriff quiet that long.
Braves take the field. The Dodgers 10-game winning streak, the longest of any team in Major League Baseball this year, and the longest for Los Angeles since 1980. The Braves are on the field, and taking his spot on the mound is right-hander Pete Smith.
He is a power pitcher with standard equipment, as the players say. A 4-seam fastball, and that means it's not going to have the movement to get a lot of ground balls. He's a fly ball pitcher. He does throw a circle change, and the one thing to look out for today in the early going is wildness. He has not been on the mound since May 18th. He was skipped as a starter, and that's what the Atlanta Braves and Leo Mazzoni, the pitching coach, try to do, give their top 4 all the starts they can. The defense for the Atlanta Braves: Ron Gant in left field, Otis Nixon in center field, and David Justice, a strong throwing right fielder. Terry Pendleton, Sean mentioned earlier, giving new meaning to the intentional walk on Wednesday evening in Cincinnati. Rafael Belliard, the shortstop, in there for the injured Jeff Blauser, who was hit by a pitch last night. Mark Lemke at second base. Sid Bream has limited range now, but still very soft hands at first base. And Damon Berryhill behind the plate. It is Berryhill's chore to catch Pete Smith and Greg Maddox, and Greg Olson, the other Atlanta catcher, catches for the most part the other 3 starters.
A symmetrical park here at Atlanta Fulton County Stadium. 330 down the lines, 385 to the power alleys, and 402 to straightaway center field. Atlanta won game one of this three-game series last night 7-4. It was a night of squandered opportunity for the San Francisco Giants. They had 16 hits but scored only 4 runs in the 9 innings. They left 13 men on base, hit into 2 double plays, and went a combined 1 for 12 with runners in scoring position. For this afternoon, they try to end their longest losing streak of the season and push their lead over Atlanta back up to 4 games as Darren Lewis stands in. The center fielder at 239, a homer and 18 runs batted in, and he's second in the league in stolen bases with 21. Lewis has been slumping of late, 2 hits in his last 21 at-bats. Pendleton in on the grass, respecting the speed of Lewis. First pitch from Pete Smith, a fastball just outside, and we're underway in Atlanta. Tim mentioned the outstanding Braves defense. They're number 1 in the National League in fielding. The Giants are second. That's popped out of play, and manager Dusty Baker thinks Darren Lewis is a Gold Glove center fielder in waiting.
One of the impressive things about both defenses, they're very strong up the middle, even with Belliard in there for the Atlanta Braves. You have Mark Lemke and Robbie Thompson, 2 of the finest defensive second basemen in turning the double play in baseball.
Breaking ball dropped in by Smith. 1-2. There is Dusty Baker, the 43-year-old first-year manager of the Giants. Elevated to the top spot after 5 years as a coach on the Giants staff. The last 4 as the hitting coach. And he is playing to rave reviews in the Bay Area. Has a tremendous ability to relate to the San Francisco player. Breaking ball missed, and Lewis has worked the count full. Pete Smith is 27 years old, the native of Burlington, Massachusetts. 6'2", 200 pounds. His payoff pitch is a fastball lifted to left. Ron Gant hardly had to move. 1 out.
The Atlanta Braves leading the National League in earned run average, a full .11 in front of the St. Louis Cardinals, who are second. The Giants, by the way, are 5th, and that's a department that San Francisco did not expect. Strong pitching this year.
Robbie Thompson riding the longest hitting streak in the majors this season into this ball game. He has hit in 18 straight, raising his average for the year to 285. 3 round trippers for Robbie Thompson. 21 runs batted in. He's been in and out of the lineup the past couple of days with back spasm. It started to bother him Tuesday night in Chicago while he was watching TV. Didn't realize watching TV could be so hazardous. Not only is it the longest in the majors this season, it's the longest streak of Thompson's career. The 2-0 to him is high and tight. 3-0.
Dusty Baker moving Thompson from the 6th spot in the order to the number 2 spot. And Dusty saying that that appeared to fuel Thompson's batting streak. The one thing that does not make him a good number 2 hitter is he strikes out too much. Primarily the number 2 spot of the order, a guy who makes contact, preferably to the right side of the infield.
Another breaking ball, and Smith has worked for another full count. He's gone the distance with each of the first 2 hitters. Thompson has fanned 30 times this year. Only Matt Williams has struck out more among the Giants. Checked his swing at ball 4. They appealed down to first, and Paul Runge said it was not a swing.
It was close, but because he was going to first base in the same motion, it appeared that he didn't go through with the swing. It was very close, however. You be the judge. I think he held up.
Thompson at first with 1 out for Will Clark, who went at an 0 for 14 drought last night with 3 hits and an RBI. He still has just 1 home run this season. And he waits as Thompson draws the throw. Robbie has swiped 5 bases and been thrown out once.
Longest home run drought in Clark's career, 160 at-bats without a dinger.
The only home run this year came on April 10th in Pittsburgh off the Pirates' Steve Cook. His numbers a far cry this season from what has been his average season leading up to 1993. Through his career, he's averaged seasons of .301 with 23 homers and 91 runs batted in. Will says there's nothing physically wrong with him. There are a lot of theories going around the Bay Area about what is ailing Will Clark. He's in the last year of his contract. That can frequently play on a player's mind. Some say he might be psychologically struggling with the presence and attention of Barry Bonds.
San Francisco Giants have called off contract talks until the end of the season, but I do not believe that a guy like Clark is affected by stuff like that. I think it's natural to draw the parallel, but I don't believe with the intensity of Will Clark that he's even worried about a contract until the end of the season.
Dribbler foul. Down to Bobby Bonds in the first base coach's box. Here's Bobby Bonds, the owner of 332 career home runs. He had 5 30-30 seasons and nearly became the first man to reach 40-40 in a year. In 1973, he had 39 homers and stole 43 bases. Barry Bonds says that's the first season that he can remember his dad as a player. And he recalls that Bobby hit a number of balls long enough to be homers that were foul. Wendell Kim is the third base coach. Two and two is the count on Clark. Thompson at first and one down. Top of the first, no score. Three hitters against Pete Smith and 3-3-2 counts.
Robbie Thompson has 5 stolen bases in 6 tries, and even though Clark is a power hitter throughout his career, he's also a contact power hitter. So look for Thompson to be running here.
He is running, and Clark lifts it to deep right center field. Justice to the warning track. To the wall. Home run. 161 at-bats without a home run, a string that comes to an end for Will Clark. Just his second home run of the season. He follows up the 3-hit night of last night with a home run in his first at-bat this afternoon, and the Giants go up 2-0.
Clark working Pete Smith to a predictable count, and he gets the fastball right down the heart of the plate. Clark does the rest with that classic extended swing.
Now Matt Williams, who's been having no difficulty with the long ball. He's hit 15 of them. As we mentioned, the only other home run this year for Clark at Pittsburgh off Steve Cook on April 10th. Williams with a .313 batting average, 42 runs batted in to go along with the 15 homers.
There are a lot of hitters in baseball who may have better swings than Will Clark, but nobody in baseball, in my opinion, has a better finish than Will Clark. Watch the extension of the bat in the hands. That's extension. And he extended it about 390 over the right field fence.
One of the theories about Clark's hitting woes has been that he's been feeling for the ball or reaching for the ball and really hasn't been putting that textbook Clark swing on pitches. That smash to center and a long run for Otis Nixon, who's there just in front of the track. Williams lines to center for the second out of the first. And boos greet Barry Bonds as he returns to Atlanta Fulton County Stadium for the first time since Game 7 of the National League Championship Series, his last game in a Pirate uniform. Bonds still above the 400 mark at 401. He's leading the league in hitting. Tied for second with 12 homers. Tied for fifth in the league in runs batted in with 37 runs batted in. Pick a category, and he's in the top 10, including income. 6 years, $43.75 million. The contract given to Bonds in the offseason as a free agent by the Giants, and now you're hearing talk that if anything, he's underpaid. But you don't hear anybody saying he's overpaid. Especially not Dad. Bobby Bonds, a very animated first base coach. He doubles as the hitting coach, and he maintains a constant dialogue, either verbal or with his hands. Many of his gestures have meaning, sometimes only the hitters. Check swing, ball 4, strike, says third base umpire Dana Demuth. Bonds sent the bat back toward the on-deck circle. And he'll go back to the plate with a 3-2 pitch.
I think Barry was trying to talk Dana Demuth into that one. We talked about Robbie Thompson going toward first. We'll see if Barry Bonds went around. It looked like he went around.
4-3-2 count for Smith in the inning. And the second walk beat his issue. He's already thrown 25 pitches.
There are several things that distinguish Bonds, in my opinion, to be the best player in the game, and one of them is his base running. There are stronger players, as he's tomfoolering with Sid Bream, the first baseman. You know, guys, when you do something well and you go to first base, you talk to the first baseman. If you're on an error, you're less inclined to talk to the first baseman. That's because that's a time at bat. But if you walk or if you get a base hit, you talk to the first baseman. In my experience, 21 years of being on first, and there were some years I wasn't, by the way, on first, but in my experience, none of that stuff ever meant anything. Nothing that's said at first base by the runner and the first baseman means a cap.
You can not recall a single thing that a first baseman said to you.
Not one. Right.
One of them probably said, hello, how you doing, Tim?
Doesn't matter. It's not the place for it.
Well, they might be talking about the last time they were together in this park. Bream beat Bonds' throw by a couple of inches to score the winning run that sent Atlanta on to the World Series and ended Barry Bonds' career as a Pittsburgh Pirate.
Give him a quarter, call him after the game. Take him to dinner is the old baseball expression.
Willie McGee, the batter. Bonds with 9 stolen bases. He's been thrown out 4 times. That's chopped down to Bream. On to Smith. Not in time. McGee still runs pretty well, and Smith was a bit slow in getting over. It's an infield hit for Willie McGee with 3 hits last night.
Pete Smith very slow in getting over, and Willie McGee smelling a hit. All you have to do now with Bream off the bag is beat the pitcher, and he did. Watch the left foot come down of Willie McGee right before the right foot of Smith.
Clearly safe. Willie McGee batting over 500 in his last 9 games now. 18 for his last 35. The 7th batter of the first is Royce Clayton, hitting .295, a homer and 22 knocked in. Perhaps Pete Smith is showing the rustiness of his lack of regular work of late.
11 days since he pitched, and we talked about that at the top. 4 3-2 counts, and won the home run on the 3-2 pitch to Will Clark.
He's quickly ahead of Clayton, 0-2.
On the radar gun, 91 miles an hour, but if you're not throwing strikes, it doesn't matter how hard you throw. Pete's had a tough time finding the strike zone, and as we said, it's understandable since it's been a while since he pitched.
Giants lead 2-0 on a Will Clark home run here in the top of the first. They have 2 on with 2 out. 2 pitch just missed. Barry Bonds at second. He walked and moved up to second when Willie McGee reached on an infield single. The second hit off Pete Smith here in the first.
thing that has impressed Dusty Baker this year, he's getting a lot of production out of the bottom part of the order. Royce Clayton batting .295. Kurt Manwaring, the number 8 hitter, batting .313. So the offense has been well distributed throughout the Giant order so far this year.
And he says that production from the 7th and 8th spots, that even the Giant pitchers have helped to overcome the lack of production from Will Clark. Throughout the first 2 months of the season, Giant fans have been saying, well, wait till Clark starts hitting, then we'll really have something on our hands, and that might be starting to happen. 3 hits for Clark last night, 2nd home run of the year here today. Another breaking ball fought off by Clayton, still 1-2.
Giants made 10 hundredths of a point, I guess, over the Houston Astros. Chicago next, the Expos and the Pirates. Remember, Atlanta 12th in the National League in hitting, but they have been getting the long ball from 2 guys in particular, David Justice and Ron Gann, of late.
Well, Sparky Anderson always says it's not a game about batting average, it's about scoring runs, and in this case they go hand in hand with San Francisco. They're also leading the National League in runs scored, averaging 5 a game. A little bit too much time for Clayton, and he steps up. Smith, as the 5th starter last year, went 7-0 for Atlanta after his recall from AAA Richmond. Hasn't been all over the place. He's been right around the plate, and the crowd groaned as that pitch was not called strike 3.
Looked a little high to Clayton. Umpires were supposed to give that pitch, however, this year. Raising of the strike zone.
It hasn't happened.
Nope.
And in this instance, much to the chagrin of Bobby Cox. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 outs, 2 men on, 2-0 San Francisco. Throw to second. And Bonds is back safely. Belliard tried to sneak in behind him.
Belliard and Bonds also teammates at Pittsburgh.
The 2-2 is popped up. And into the seats. With the crowd here today, the Braves are going to go over the 1 million mark in home attendance. They'll become the 2nd National League team this season to reach the 1 million mark in home attendance. In this, their 22nd home date. They're averaging 47,000 fans per home game. Of course, Colorado the first to reach the 1 million mark. They did it in 17 home dates. The 2-2. He struck him out. The fastball foul tip into the middle of Berryhill. A long first inning for Pete Smith. Will Clark's 2-run homer made it 2-0 San Francisco. Center fielder Otis Nixon leads off today for Atlanta. Mark Lemke is batting second at second base. Terry Pendleton is the third baseman hitting third. David Justice, the cleanup hitter, in right field. The red-hot Ron Gant bats fifth in left field. Sid Bream is the first baseman batting sixth. The catcher Damon Berryhill hits seventh. Rafael Belliard for Jeff Blauser at short, and Pete Smith, the pitcher, bats ninth.
The defense for the Giants is a good one. Barry Bonds in left field. Darren Lewis, the center fielder. Willie McGee in right. Matt Williams, a Gold Glover at third base. Royce Clayton at shortstop. Robbie Thompson, we mentioned his prowess on the double play at second. Will Clark at first base. Kurt Manwaring behind the plate. And 25-year-old Greg Brummett on the mound.
Making his major league debut. Brummett from Wichita, Kansas, and a product of Wichita State. Otis Nixon hits it right back to Greg. What a nice way to begin your major league career. Brummett was on the mound in 1989 when the Wichita State Shockers won the College World Series, and he was the MVP of the College World Series in Omaha that year.
And his coach, Gene Stevenson, the coach of the Wichita State Shockers, is here in the ballpark today along with 10 members of his family. He's from Wichita, and Gene Stevenson and the Shockers are playing in the regional college tournament in town. And as a matter of fact, he may be in the booth in the next couple of innings, we understand.
Brummett working to Mark Lemke, who lifts it to shallow left center. And Lewis makes the catch. Here's what Greg Brummett had to say about his College World Series experience.
After the last pitch I struck him out, I jumped up in the air and I lost my balance somehow, fell down on my stomach. And I jumped up again, and there was my catcher, and I jumped on him like that, and everybody just came and just piled, and it was just a great feeling. It's probably the highlight of my career up until now, getting called up.
Terry Pendleton with a fly ball to left. Bonds the catch on the track. Brummett works a ho-hum 1-2-3 first in his first major league inning. 2-0 Giants.
You're watching CBS Sports coverage of Major League Baseball.
Look at the difference in the number of pitches for the two pitchers. Pete Smith threw 38 pitches in an inning in which the Giants scored twice, and only 4 pitches for Greg Brummett. And I think that's how the game has changed over the last generation of ball players. I mean, here are experienced hitters with the Atlanta Braves. They've never seen the pitcher, and you would think that they would want to see a few pitches before they swung the bat. But 2 swung at the first pitch, and Mark Lemke swung at a 1-0 pitch.
And Brummett's in the on-deck circle saying, this major league stuff is easy.
Piece of cake, huh?
Kurt Manwaring. Like a fastball that was apparently just low. Tim mentioned Manwaring is having a terrific year. Hitting .313 as he faces Pete Smith. Pete Smith allowed 2 hits and walked 2 in the first, and induces a pop-up to start the second. Sid Bream, the catch, 1 out.
I don't care how young you are, a day game after a night game, catchers are more inclined to have those types of swings on the day game after a night game because of the position being so grueling. Everybody says the legs are the first to go. For a catcher, the day after a night game, it's the arms. You feel it.
Now the first major league at bat for Greg Brummett. He takes strike 1. As Tim mentioned, 10 members of Greg Brummett's family are in attendance here today, including his wife Donna. Late swing, and Brummett's in the hole 0-2. Greg said he felt more at ease than he thought he might because he was recalled last Sunday, so he's had just about a full week now. Major league surrounding him to get to know his teammates. Fastball just high, 1-2. And he chased the breaking ball. And out. Second strikeout for Pete Smith. No score in the bottom of the first at Yankee Stadium. Alvarez 5-0 against Abbott. The Cubs lead 2-0 on a Sammy Sosa 2-run homer at Wrigley against Montreal and Dennis Martinez. San Diego at St. Louis. The Padres lead 2-1. Todd Zeile an RBI double for the Cardinal run. And Cincinnati at New York. Scoreless in the top of the first at Shea. Tim Pugh battling Brett Saberhagen there. Darren Lewis fly to left, leading off the ball game. And like Barry Bonds, he's playing for his hometown team. He grew up in the Bay Area. Breaking ball fouled away. Davey Johnson returns to Shea this weekend as the skipper of the Reds to take on the Mets.
And from what we understand, warm applause at Shea Stadium for a man who managed the Mets 6+ years. He was fired in Cincinnati, as a matter of fact, back in 1990, replaced by Buddy Harrelson, and then Jeff Torborg last year starting, and Jeff Torborg recently fired, and Dallas Green taking over.
Well, if you're a manager, you don't like to see the Braves come to town. Atlanta was at Shea Stadium when Jeff Torborg was dismissed as Mets manager. Yeah. Then they were traveling to Cincinnati to face the Reds when Tony Perez got dumped in favor of Davey Johnson. The 2-1 to Lewis. Breaking ball just missed. Baker spent 16 years as a Major League player, 2 times a National League All-Star. And Smith has issued his 3rd walk. This comes to the Speedy Lewis with 2 down in the 2nd.
5 years of Dusty Baker's career spent here in Atlanta. As a matter of fact, he was the on-deck batter when Hank Aaron hit home run number 715. What a player he was. He had his best years with the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Manages somewhat out of the Dodger tradition in that he tends to put the same lineup out there day after day. You mentioned Manwaring in the lineup, day game after night game. Certainly Mike Scioscia experienced that regularly during his Dodger career. Robbie Thompson trying again to extend the longest hit streak in the majors this season to 19 games. He walked and scored on the Clark homer in the 1st. Giants lead 2-0. They're batting in the 2nd. Smith started Thompson with a fastball strike.
See if Darren Lewis is stealing. Lewis with 21 stolen bases, 3rd in the National League. He's been caught only 3 times. And Damon Berryhill is 0 for his last 5 tries at nailing runners.
Thompson way out in front of it. Tough to pull one more sharply foul than that.
Home run in a round park. This is a good running situation right here. Why? Because pitchers and catchers are inclined to waste breaking balls with the count no balls and 2 strikes. So in order to defend against that, you pitch out, thinking that they're thinking that. A little cat and mouse action by Wendell Kim.
Out again. Now it's 2-2.
Maybe the first pitch out, but the second pitch out could be the pitch that you're going to get the hitter out on. Now you even the count, and I don't agree with pitching out the second time like Berryhill did. Now you've almost talked him into running.
Corner. 2 strikeouts in the inning for Pete Smith. After an inning and a half in Atlanta, the Giants 2 and the Braves nothing. Next Saturday at 1 Eastern time, CBS Sports brings you 1st round coverage of the College World Series from Omaha, Nebraska. Greg Gumbel and Jim Cott will bring you that. One man who hopes to be there is Gene Stevenson, now in his 16th season as head coach at Wichita State. Tim mentioned in the 1st inning, Coach, your team's in action here in the Atlantic Regional, hosted by Georgia Tech, and you're in the driver's seat here at 2-0 and playing tonight.
Well, you might say that, but we're not going to say that. We've got 2 more games to win, and you know, the important thing is that we go out and play hard and play well.
Tell us, if you could, a little bit about Greg Brummett. Gene, you had him. He pitched the College World Series final game in 1989.
Well, I'll tell you, he's a great control pitcher. He has the ability to move the ball in and out. He has pretty good movement for a right-hander, and his ball sinks a lot and runs. And, you know, I think that, oh, boy.
David Justice lines to right field. The first hit given up as a major leaguer by Greg Brummett.
See what the analyst should make?
I bring him that kind of luck, I guess. But, you know, he really did a great job for us, and we did not teach him to hit, by the way.
One thing that Mike Krukow, who's doing the television for the San Francisco Giants, told me was that you can see his arm, but you can't see his heart. That he's got a lot of heart out there on the mound.
He has great determination, and, you know, he really grew as a person while he was at Wichita State. He came in, had a nickname of Fifi, and he left there with a nickname of Spike. So he grew a lot, and he's a very, very competitive guy.
Spike's better than Fifi.
I would say that's a transition for which he is most grateful. And he tells us that he still comes around and works out with your program in the offseason.
He surely does, like a lot of other guys that have been there at Wichita State. He's really a tremendous guy, and he deserves a lot of success. He's worked awful hard.
Dealing with the hottest hitter in baseball at the moment, Ron Gant, as you saw, 7 for his last 8, including 4 for 4 last night in the Braves win in Game 1 of this series. Gant hit a 3-run homer and had a 2-run double to knock in 5 runs.
3 home runs, 3 doubles in his last 2 ball games. He is on fire.
And as the tying run at the plate in the bottom of the second with San Francisco leading 2-0. We're visiting with Gene Stevenson, the coach of the Wichita State Shockers. And looking on proudly as one of his former players, Greg Brummett, makes his major league debut. Brummett joined on that team in '89 that won the College World Series for Wichita State by Mike Lansing, Eric Wedge, and Pat Mears, and you have to be proud of all those fellas.
Well, I certainly am, and you know they've made some names for themselves in their own right.
Pat Mears, of course, now with the Minnesota Twins. Lansing, a great story in the early season with Montreal, and Eric Wedge trying to battle back from injuries with the Colorado Rockies.
Dangerous situation for Brummett here. I would imagine Gant swinging.
3-0 on the inside corner. Home plate umpire Jerry Lane pondered it for a moment before calling it a strike.
Some guys don't like to hit 3-0. They feel like they get too anxious. Ron Gant, and a bullion sort of guy. Maybe he feels that way, but that's his pitch right there, inside half.
That ball had pretty good movement, though, Tim. I mean, you're not going to hit that ball very well.
Gant might have had a point, but it was ball 4. Throw to first, and Justice back safely. Draws another throw. He's only stolen 1 base and has been thrown out twice trying to steal.
This is not a running situation right here. A guy as hot as Gant, you want him to choose a pitch instead of having the distraction of a runner running.
Wow. See out in front of that one. Pulled a bullet that scattered the Giants in the dugout. Trevor Wilson already on the disabled list, running for cover. Looked like it might have nicked him.
Trevor Wilson with tendonitis in his left shoulder was hit in his right elbow. Sometimes you can't hide from that thing.
And Brummett's in the majors because Wilson went on the disabled list. Greg was called up to take his place. Now the count is full. Now the likelihood is increased that Justice will be on the move. At the plate with Justice at first and nobody out. In the second, 2-0 San Francisco. Justice runs. It's a strikeout. And safe at second is Justice. Just ahead of the throw from Kurt Manwaring, rather. Second stolen base of the year for David Justice.
With 2 strikes on the hitter, the catcher's first responsibility is to try to get the hitter, which means that he can't come out and explode out past the hitter like he normally does. Consequently, you see a lot more poorer throws with the count 2 strikes on the batter than you do in any other count. Manwaring had to stay back. I think Gant may have gotten a piece of that ball, and the throw was high, and Justice has his second stolen base of the year.
First strikeout as a major league pitcher for Greg Brummett. And it's the first out of the second inning. Here's Sid Bream hitting .236, 3 homers, and 15 runs batted in. Gene, the Giants people tell us that Greg Brummett was not necessarily one of their highly touted prospects as he made his way into their organization. Did you view him as a major league pitcher when he left your program?
Well, he didn't throw hard enough to view him as a great major league prospect. And what you got was a guy who competes real hard.
And can field, obviously. He has Justice trapped between second and third, executes the play flawlessly.
And he's a tough-minded guy. I mean, you know, he grew a lot, as I said. He became a lot tougher competitively. And, you know, you can't measure on the radar gun what he's got inside of him. He has great movement. He has good command of the strike zone in and out. And he's never going to give you a great pitch to hit if he can avoid it. I mean, he's what you might call a nibbler or whatever, but he's a guy that will go out there and sometimes give you what might be considered a comfortable 0 for 4.
And he was also trained well in rundown plays, obviously. One of the stronger points.
Well, we try to work hard on defense.
Well, that showed. He ran right at the runner, and that's the way you got to do it.
It must make you proud as a coach when you see one of your players go on and execute a fundamental like that, because we don't always see it even at the major league level.
Yeah, it certainly does. And he's one of many now that we've got in the major leagues, and it just seems like the program continues to grow each year.
What do you need to accomplish the rest of your weekend here in Atlanta to get to Omaha?
Well, I think we're going to have to play Georgia Tech tonight. I believe they won this morning, or at least were in the process of winning. And they have a loss, and we have got to win that game tonight. And then we'll be the only undefeated team into the final tomorrow. And somebody will have to beat us twice.
This is a double elimination in the regionals. And I know you were a little disappointed that you didn't get a home field berth based on the strong record you had during the year.
Yeah, we're a little disappointed that we didn't get a regional. But, a lot has been said here that we were disappointed we were a number 3 seed. We're not disappointed about that. We're just thankful to be in the tournament anywhere and play hard and hope we can win. And that, let the rest of it take care of itself. We're not concerned about where we're seated.
1-0 the count on Damon Berryhill. 2 outs. The runner at first is Bream. Giants lead 2-0 in the second. Berryhill with a base hit. Bream does not run well. He stops at second. Second hit in the inning for Atlanta. First and second with 2 down.
And a base running mistake by David Justice, getting picked off between second and third. You don't know how it's going to develop. I mean, maybe they do not give Berryhill as good a pitch to hit, but nonetheless, as it stands now, Justice would have scored on the base hit by Berryhill. Excuse me, Sean, you can understand Justice's reasoning, however. A ball back through the middle. He's trying to get a good jump off of second base to score in case the ball's through there. But as it turned out, a base running mistake by David Justice.
And now Rafael Belliard, known for his glove and not his bat, hitting just .211. 4 hits in 19 at-bats. Playing today, as Tim mentioned, because Jeff Blauser was hit on the hand by a pitch last night. His status is day-to-day. Blauser, the only Brave who was played in every game this season for Atlanta. Field line into the bullpen area. McGee to make the catch and end the inning. Gene, good luck to you in Wichita State. We appreciate the visit.
Well, thank you very much, Sean, and we'll look forward to hopefully seeing you in the College World Series soon, huh?
What a welcome sight this is for Giant fans. Will Clark ending a drought of 161 at-bats without a homer in the first inning with a man aboard. Second home run of the season for Will Clark. And that has accounted for all the offense in this one. 2-0 San Francisco as Will Clark begins the third. Clark, then Matt Williams and Barry Bonds against Pete Smith. Will Clark hit a home run in his first career at bat back in 1986.
And his last. And in between, it hadn't been too bad a career.
Is ready, as is Pete Smith. Well, another of those who is familiar with the excitement of college baseball from his days at Mississippi State. We wish Coach Stevenson in Wichita State well as they try to get back to Omaha for the 5th time in 6 years. He has certainly established himself as one of the great college baseball coaches in the country. About the mates of Greg Brummett while he was at Wichita State, and Will Clark played at a time at Mississippi State with some pretty good ball players like Bobby Thigpen and Rafael Palmeiro. The 1-2 pitch. Slice to left. Can't. Had him well played. 1 out.
38 pitches in the first inning, but you notice how Pete Smith has settled down. He really needed all of those pitches. We mentioned that he had not worked in 11 days. He came to the Phillies back in 1986 with Ozzie Virgil for Steve Bedrosian and Milt Thompson. The odd thing about that, Bedrosian is back with Atlanta. Milt Thompson, after a sojourn with the Cardinals, is back with the Phillies now. And Pete Smith, as you said, 7-0 last year. His first win coming against San Francisco at Candlestick.
Matt Williams a pop-up. Mark Lemke to catch in shallow right. 2 down. Let's check scores of other games. Jim Leyritz has hit a 3-run homer. Second game in a row with a first-inning home run for Leyritz. It's 3-0 Yankees. Ryan Sandberg has added a sacrifice fly to Sammy Sosa's 2-run homer. Mike Morgan on the mound for the Cubs. San Diego has pushed its lead to 3-1 over St. Louis. An RBI for Kurt Stillwell on a ground out. And Cincinnati leads 1-0 on a Barry Larkin RBI double at Shea Stadium. Barry Bonds fouled the first pitch away. He walked in the first inning. And is enjoying a tremendous 93 against the Braves. Been his nemesis in postseason the last 2 years. It's really the only thing still hanging around the neck of Barry Bonds that he has not produced as he is capable in postseason play. Actually, there's a lot hanging around the neck of Barry Bonds, as you can see, but from a baseball standpoint, that's it. Barry, the subject of what most people felt was an unflattering article in Sports Illustrated last week. Barry says he hasn't read it, but he understands from members of his family and teammates that it was not a flattering portrayal. It's not the kind of thing that seems to bug him very much. The 1-2 pitch. Belted down the right field line, way back and way out of here. That's what Barry Bonds does care about. His 13th home run of the season. That's second in the league now, behind only his teammate Matt Williams. Run batted in, number 38. That'll keep Bonds above the 400 mark for the season and make it 3-0 San Francisco.
What a rocket by Bonds. He is so quick inside. Flight attendants, prepare for takeoff. Ouch. That's with 2 strikes. A lot of hitters would be guarding the plate, protecting outside. Bonds waits till the last minute, and you could see how he almost coddled the bat as he brought it through and still hits it 380 feet.
Swinging bunt by McGee, and Berryhill threw it away. It's rolling around in the bullpen, but I believe home plate umpire Jerry Lane is going to stop the play. And he's calling McGee out for running inside the first baseline. McGee made it all the way to third, but Jerry Lane made the call. McGee was not running within the 45-foot lane, and as a result, he is out. And Dusty Baker is coming out to argue the call. The play ends the inning.
It doesn't necessarily have to hit the runner, but this could have hit the runner. I didn't see it, but it did interfere with Sid Bream, and Willie McGee is called out, 2 unassisted.
Good call by Jerry Lane. We'll return to Atlanta Fulton County Stadium after this message and a word from your local station. Rookie Greg Brummett making his major league debut, working with a 3-0 lead on a 2-run homer by Will Clark, a solo shot by Barry Bonds. Pete Smith, the pitcher, begins the Atlanta third. Smith has been up 14 times this year with 2 hits. He has driven in 4 runs. These Atlanta pitchers are competitive in just about everything, including their hitting. He leads the Atlanta pitching staff with those 4 runs batted in. All 5 starters, Glavine, Maddox, Smoltz, Avery, and Smith, are avid golfers. They compete regularly in that. Smoltz acknowledged to be the best of the golfers with a 4 handicap, but Maddox right behind at 5. Talked to Tom Glavine yesterday. He says he's a 12, although he shot 78 the last time out. He wants to stay at 12. He says the only way you can win when you're playing for the other members of the pitching staff. An inflated handicap. Didn't think that happened in golf. A ball low and away, and now the count is full.
Especially among baseball players. Starting rotation makes a nice foursome if you're working with four, and that's what the Braves do when they can.
Pete Smith will earn some brownie points among his pitching staff peers as he singles into center field.
We talked about 2 swings on 2 home runs. If you remember, we talked about the extension of Will Clark, an easier pitch to handle that part of the plate. There's the extension. Now watch Barry Bonds. You see how he kind of comes in with his arms? When you do that as a hitter, you take a lot away from your power. But because he is so quick and so powerful, he still hit it out.
Otis Nixon, the batter. He slaps one toward left center. Long run for Bonds. In the gap, he can't get it. Smith on his way to third. Nixon on his way to second as Lewis retrieves. 2 men in scoring position with nobody out for Atlanta. A double for Otis Nixon.
Otis Nixon hitting much better as a right-handed batter than a left-handed batter, and you rarely see him drive the ball this deeply to left center field. Bonds was close, Lewis was shallow, and Otis Nixon has his 5th double of the year. Nixon can do that from the right side, drive it to right center, but rarely does he exhibit that kind of power as a left-handed batter the other way.
Mark Lemke batting from his weaker side of the plate this year, both in terms of average and power. Ball one outside. Lemke ordinarily the number 8 hitter in the Atlanta lineup, but batting second today with Jeff Blauser out. Rafael Belliard is hitting 8th. Pete Smith at third. You see Williams a step in front of the bag. Certainly is possible that Lemke could drop down a bunt. It's also possible he could hit a home run, which is something you wouldn't ordinarily associate with Lemke. His average season prior to 1993 had yielded 3 home runs. And he was a .226 career hitter coming into this year. But he already has surpassed his usual season performance with 5 home runs. He had a 2-homer game at Colorado this year. Dusty Baker is on his way to the mound. There is no action in the San Francisco bullpen.
And it's pretty predictable right now what Dusty Baker is telling Greg Brummett. Probably influenced a little bit too much by the hit by Smith, the opposite field double by Nixon. And then he ran the count to 2 balls and no strikes to Lemke. And the thing is, you have the big bats of the Braves coming up. And Dusty, I'm sure, said challenge Lemke. Fully mindful that Pendleton, Justice, and Gant follow Lemke.
Justice and Gant, in particular, are very hot at the moment. Braves down 3-0, trying to scratch right back onto the heels of the Giants here in the 3rd. Lemke a base hit to right field. Smith is in. Nixon will be held with nobody out. 3 straight hits to open the 3rd for Atlanta. Greg Brummett, the RBI for Lemke, is his 16th of the year.
Braves, even though they're down by 2, they have the talent not only to come back, but they have the talent to run away with the National League West, and that is even in lieu of the Giants' fast start. That's how talented they are. When you get production, we mentioned production from Royce Clayton and Kurt Manwaring, the 7 and 8 hitters of the Giants, and now the Braves getting production out of Mark Lemke at second base. And Jeff Blauser batting .350 on the year.
Blauser should be an all-star this year. Pendleton, just as Giant fans have been saying, Wait till Will Clark starts hitting, then we'll really have something. The Braves have been saying that about Terry Pendleton. With his 0 for 1 today, he's at 207 for the year, only 2 homers and 20 runs driven in. Lemke not much of a threat to run. He's not stolen a base this year. Greg Brummett in his major league debut has now been reached for 5 hits. And he's still trying to record the first out of the home half of the third. Popped up. Nixon is tagging. Bonds. It's cut off by Williams. Nixon remains at third. Did that bring back a memory of Game 7 of the National League playoffs?
I was thinking the same thing. The base hit to left field by Francisco Cabrera. And Barry Bonds, a lot of people talking about Sid Bream scoring right under the tag of Mike LaValliere. Well, Barry Bonds made a very quick throw to almost get Bream. And that's the type of outfield. He was in perfect position and made a very quick throw home to hold Nixon at third base. I was thinking the same thing, though.
If you were here that night, it would be tough not to think along those lines. You saw Bonds throwing toward home, just about the same spot as he fielded Cabrera's hit. And Terry Pendleton's woes continue. David Justice at the plate with first and third and 1 out. Justice singled to right and stole second in the second. Carved the foul ball back to the backstop. Justice doesn't have his average where you would expect to find it at 227 coming in, but he's far ahead of his home run pace of a year ago. He has 12. Last season he did not hit his 12th home run until August 31st. He went on to finish the year with 19. Get the job done for Atlanta. The Brummett changeup popped up in the middle of the infield. And the catch made by the shortstop Clayton. Back by popular demand. The final play of the league championship series. He hacked to the 2-0, now the 2-1. Line drive and a base hit. Justice has scored the tying run. Bream to the plate. And he is through. Safe at the plate. The Braves go to the World Series. 129 years ago was the Battle of Atlanta, and last year's game was the Battle of Mylanta. Sid Bream scoring the winning run that sent Atlanta on to the World Series. The throw from Bonds just a hair late. Gant struck out swinging his first time up. Brummett trying to cool off Gant. Was 4 for 4 last night. Came into this one 7 for his last 8. Gant has raised his average over the last 30 games from 157 to the 274 he brought into today's contest. Jimmy Williams, the third base coach. We saw a lot of Jimmy Williams in that box last year, and he is one of the absolute best. The 0-2 is a check swing for a ball. Well, it would be a moral victory for Greg Brummett if he can get out of this inning having allowed just the 1 run. The 1 run was already in, and the Braves had first and third with nobody out. Still only 1 run in for Atlanta. First and third, now 2 down.
He'll throw anything that Manwaring puts down. I would think they'll go with the breaking ball again. Try to keep it away.
They do, and he checked his swing, did Gant, and fouled it off, lost his helmet in the process.
Manwaring setting up outside, and this ball hitting the plate and coming up and nearly hitting Ronnie on the coconut. We've already had Jose Canseco hit on the head this week. Home run bouncing over the right center field wall.
That was funny.
Oh, it's hilarious.
How about the soccer team offering him a contract? Brummett to first. keep Lemke close.
You know, you see Manwaring setting up after the sign. Catchers don't like to set up too soon and pound that mitt because hitters hear where they are setting up and will look for certain pitches. Watch how Manwaring gives the sign. This is going to be a breaking ball. Now watch how he kind of goes from one foot to the other and then goes outside. If you set up too quickly, a hitter could hear the pounding of the glove. As a matter of fact, Gary Sheffield of the Padres, Todd Hundley of the Mets, had a fight this year because Hundley said that Sheffield was peaking back there. And even when you don't peak, you can hear a catcher with the pounding of that mitt and eliminate certain pitches.
Well, as an ex-catcher, you can really appreciate how fundamentally solid Manwaring is.
Absolutely. This is going to be a fastball inside.
And he blew away with it. Nice bit of pitching by Brummett to get out of the inning, having allowed just the one run. After 3-1 Giants.
This game summary is sponsored by Busch Beer.
Giants have posted a 3-1 lead. They've done it with a long ball, a 2-run homer by Will Clark in the first, a solo home run by Barry Bonds in the third, and the Atlanta run in the bottom of the third on an RBI single by Mark Lemke. We go to the fourth. The Giants at the bat with a 3-1 lead. Bottom third of the order, Royce Clayton leads off. He struck out swinging his first time up against Pete Smith. A pop up in shallow right. Lemke makes room for Justice. One out. At the conclusion of today's game, Tim McCarver and I will select the Chevrolet Most Valuable Player of the game. Chevrolet will donate $1,000 in the player's name to the Special Olympics. Oh, the Chevrolet slide always fitting. Last week it was Joe DiMaggio and Ted Williams. We have the Red Sox and Yankees, and now Willie Mays.
Willie Mays, the best player I ever saw. Leo DeRocher made that comment. There are only 5 things a player can do: hit for power, run, throw, and field. And Mays does them all superbly. Did he ever?
Manwaring with a pop-up. And Berryhill in foul ground, 2 down. Of course, the best play you saw, excluding yourself, you did all 5 of those well, and you were telling us at dinner last night. Right there ahead of Willie Mays and DiMaggio and some of those guys also in the running. You know, you dropped down one spot this week on the all-time hit list.
I did, yes. Tony Pena got 1,501, right? I saw that.
You are now 439th on Major League Baseball. Hey, think of all the guys who have played. 439 is something to be proud of. You're still in the top 500 of all time. 1501?
1501.
Greg Brummett struck out swinging. He's last on the all-time Major League Baseball hit list. He doesn't have one. Yankees still lead 3-0 on the Leyritz homer. Chicago's lead now 4-0. Sammy Sosa has driven in another run. He has 3 runs batted in. Brummett with a pop-up. This will be a 3 pop-up inning for Pete Smith. Lemke makes the catch. The Giants go in order for the first time. On to the bottom of the fourth in Atlanta. The Giants lead 3-1.
CBS Sports presents Major League Baseball. Today's game is brought to you by Buick and your local Buick dealers. Smooth Busch Beer and easy drinking Busch Light. And by New Band for Men.
Back in Atlanta, the Giants lead 3-1 in this battle of the top 2 teams in the National League West. Sean McDonough along with Tim McCarver. You said during the pregame show that you still think Atlanta is the team to beat in this division. How do you size up the Giants as a contender?
I think Atlanta has a pitching staff that is much too deep, and I think that's what the Giants would love to have. They have 2 at the top and 2 at the bottom. The 2 guys at the bottom, Rod Beck and Mike Jackson, and then at the top they have Bill Swift and John Burkett, who lost his first game last night. In between is where I think the Giants have a potential of being hurt more. Their 3rd, 4th, 5th starter and their middle relievers. If they can get to Jackson and to Rod Beck, those guys are real quality pitchers there. But in between, they may have some problems, and I don't see Atlanta having those same problems.
Sid Bream has been having problems with his 0 for 1 today. 3 for his last 32. That's lifted to left. And Bonds the catch. 1 out.
Rod Beck, Mike Jackson. Beck with 11 saves. Both have superb control. Mike Jackson has walked only 1 his last 18 innings. And Rod Beck's walked only 4 all year long.
Jackson serves as the setup man for Beck. Jackson, they say he has a rubber arm and he better. He has appeared in 29 of the 49 Giant games to date. Giants have only 1 complete game this year from John Burkett, who is 7-1. Damon Berryhill swings through the off-speed pitch from Greg Brummett. There's a look out at the Giant bullpen. Giants knew that they would score runs with this lineup. It's the pitching that has been a pleasant surprise. Really compare their season scenario to that of the Detroit Tigers. Knew the offense would be good, but would the pitching be enough to help them contend? And that continues to be the question for both of those surprising division leaders. The 2-1 to Berryhill. Just missed. Here's another example of the strength of Manwaring framing the pitch. It was clearly off the plate, but he made it look better than it was.
You do that, or catchers do that, to give the umpire a good shot at the pitch. So they wait just like hitters wait. It's almost a situation. There is a rhythm to umpiring, just like there is a rhythm to hitting. And if catchers can just hold the ball a bit longer, it could steal a strike here and there.
And even that pitch, Manwaring caught it, bringing it back toward the plate. Made a borderline strike, looked like one that was right over the outer third. 3-2 pitch. Not much he could do about that one. Berryhill is aboard. It's the first walk Brummett has issued in the major leagues. Coming up next here on CBS Sports, it's third round coverage of the Southwestern Bell Colonial Golf Classic. Live from the Colonial Country Club in Fort Worth, Texas. And through 2 rounds, Fulton Alum has a 1-stroke lead over Dick Mast. Keith Clearwater 3 shots off the pace. It's the Southwestern Bell Colonial Golf Classic from Fort Worth next here on CBS Sports. Runner at first with 1 out. Tying run at the plate in the person of Rafael Belliard. A double play ball if they hurry. Thompson turns it. Clayton, Thompson, and Clark 6-4-3. That ends the inning. We've played 4, 3-1 Giants.
You're watching CBS Sports coverage of Major League Baseball.
Sean McDonough with Tim McCarver, our producer Bob Dekas, our director Bob Fishman. Happy to have you with us from Atlanta Fulton County Stadium. Game 2 of this 3-game series. The Giants trying to even it at 1 win apiece, lead 3-1.
There's a manager right there. I don't think that he gets enough credit handling this Atlanta club. He has won the National League pennant in 1992, 1991. He won the division for the Toronto Blue Jays back in 1985. He is a solid guy, and think of the problems he had this year with 4 outfielders that were really #1 guys.
Darren Lewis for San Francisco. It's the top of the order in the 5th inning. Lewis today 0 for 1. He walked in the 2nd against Pete Smith, who has settled down after a rocky 1st inning in which he threw 38 pitches.
The Atlanta Braves starting the season with 4 quality outfielders: Ron Gant, Otis Nixon, David Justice, Deion Sanders. And try as you might, there is no way to squeeze all 4 into a game at the same time. And Bobby Cox tried to do the right thing. Deion Sanders left for 12 days, a period actually for about 20 days, a period over which the Atlanta Braves were 13-6. And it may be a problem that won't be solved until one of those guys are traded.
There's been talk on the rumor mill of Otis Nixon being traded now that Sanders has agreed to a 3-year, $11 million contract. That's slapped down the line. Penalty Pendleton was way off the line. Lewis pulled it by him and strolls into second with a double. Well, Lewis has become a better hitter this year in part because Bobby Bonds has been spending a lot of time with him on pulling the ball.
And does he ever pull this high breaking ball? Harry Pendleton, as much as any third baseman in the National League, plays way off the line, and got to agree with that because most of the balls are hit to the fat part of the field. You can't protect against a mistake by the pitcher. That's up to the pitcher and the catcher. That was a hanger, and Lewis took advantage of it.
Bobby Bonds says he's been trying to get Lewis to have more wrist action in the swing to pull the ball. Thompson trying to bunt him over to third and popped it up. Out in the Atlanta bullpen, Kent Merker, who worked in last night's game, is warming up.
Interesting thing, Robbie Thompson with an 18-game hitting streak, and he sacrificed.
You already have the runner in scoring position with nobody out. And you already have the lead by 2 runs. No sign of bunt that time. Thompson took strike 2. Giants lead 3-1. They're trying to add to that lead here in the top of the 5th. They only have 4 hits. 2 of them are home runs. A 2-run shot by Clark in the first, a solo homer by Bond in the third. There's a base hit for Thompson, extending his hitting streak. The ball gets away from Gann, and on to score is Lewis. The Giants lead 4-1. Robbie Thompson extends the longest hit streak in the major leagues this year to 19 games.
The proper approach. I mean, you're trying to put a team away, and 1 run in this ballpark is not going to do that to a power-laden club like the Braves. So Thompson obviously swinging away there. That's a no-brainer because there were 2 strikes on him. Ron Gant tries to hurry his throw. The ball comes out of the glove, and he boots it.
For an error, the first of the ball game. Gant has already made 5 errors. That's a bunch for an outfielder at this time of the year. The single and an RBI for Thompson, his 22nd ribby of the year. The error on Gann allows him to reach second. And Kent Merker will be summoned to work to Will Clark. With the score, the Giants 4 and the Braves 1. We'll return to Atlanta in just a moment.
Kent Merker's 19th appearance of the season. He's 2-0. And I'll tell you, this is a guy that organizations are salivating about. If there is a trade made by the Braves, we mentioned Otis Nixon, a possibility around the All-Star break. I would expect Kent Merker involved in a trade before the year's over. There are a lot of teams that would love to have this talented left-hander.
Many think he's miscast as a reliever, that he'd be better suited to starting. He's greeted by Will Clark, who fouled the first pitch at home plate. Clark hit his 2nd home run of the year in the first inning. A 2-run shot with Thompson aboard. It ended a string of 161 at-bats without a homer. The longest homerless streak of Clark's career. Will fly to left in the 3rd. Thompson at second. Nobody out. 1 run in here in the 5th. The Giants lead back up to 3 runs at 4-1. The 0-1 pitch. Just missed. The ball low. It glanced away from Berryhill, but Thompson didn't try it.
That was a skate save for Berryhill. The appropriate time of year to be talking about skate saves.
Indeed it is, with the Stanley Cup playoffs winding toward their conclusion.
How many times have you seen goalies do this? Berryhill doesn't know where the ball is. You don't see goalies, however, taking their mask off like catchers do.
That would be ill-advised, unless it's the end of the period. To left. Thompson is tagging as Gant makes the catch. Robbie will try to move up. Belliard's relay not in time. Aggressive aggressive base running, and it paid off for Robbie Thompson. He moves up 90 feet on the fly ball to left.
You mentioned Thompson's lower back spasms earlier in the week, and he gets up a little slowly from third base and bending over talking to Wendell Kim. But that was terrific base running by Thompson, taking a chance with a big lead. Can't catching the ball on his heels and throwing to the cutoff man, shortstop Rafael Belliard, and the throw to third late. Now that brings the Atlanta infield in.
With Matt Williams at the plate. He is lined to center and popped to second. Leading RBI man in the National League, Williams, with 42. 1-0 on Williams. He's opened up his stance a bit more this year. He's trying to face the pitcher more. He says, I have a big nose. Sometimes I had trouble seeing the ball with my right eye, so my nose got in the way. Now he's turned more toward the pitcher. He also has that habit of wiping his chin on his shoulder. Up the middle, through Marker and through the drawn-in infield to make it 5-1. Thompson in from third. League leading 43rd ribby for Matt Williams. And it's a 4-run lead, largest of the day for the Giants.
I guess California is a state where if you really want to, from a cosmetic standpoint, you get a nose job, right? Maybe that would make him a better hitter. You keep hitting like this, leading the National League in RBIs with 43, you don't have anything done to you.
And if we had the skate save earlier by Berryhill, then Williams just beat Merker through the 5-hole, right between the legs. Barry Bonds working on a perfect day. No great headline there. He has walked and hit a solo homer. Kent Merker, 25-year-old native of Dublin, Ohio. Born there, still makes his home there. And Bonds, already a 2-time National League Most Valuable Player award winner, trying to join that elite company. Says he wants to become the first player in either league to win the MVP award 4 times. It would be difficult to bet against him. There are 4 men who have won the American League's MVP award 3 times: Fox, DiMaggio, Berra, and Mantle.
Hard to believe Ted Williams isn't in that group. Williams won it 2 times in 46 and 49. He won the triple crown in 47. He didn't win it. And he batted .406 in 41 and he didn't win it. Won the triple crown in 42 and he didn't win it.
Well, we New Englanders are familiar with the bias toward New Yorkers. Something you learn to accept. 2-2 the count on Bonds. Struck him out. Merker got him with the fastball for the second out of the inning. Yankees still up 3-0. Jim Abbott shutting out the White Sox. Cordero, a 2-run double for Montreal to cut the Cubs lead to 4-2. San Diego has opened up a 6-1 lead. Eric Bell, a 2-run homer, his 10th of the year. And the Mets have taken a 4-2 lead. Bobby Bonilla and Jeff McKnight, each with a 2-run homer.
Everybody talking about a steal that the Blue Jays made with Darren Jackson, and Derek Bell is the guy who's having a terrific year.
Indeed he is. Willie McGee. For a while, words start to be, don't believe the hype about any of Toronto's highly touted outfield prospects. Remember all the hoopla about Mark Whitten and Glenn Allen Hill and Phil Camposano. Derek Bell seemed to be the latest in that line. Now he's proving that he will perform up to the hype. And Mark Whitten is starting to have that kind of a year. They've been waiting for that for a while. In his first year with St. Louis, he's beginning to perform.
Organizations will do that. They will inflate the value of their players just in case a trade is made so they can maximize value. See, 93-mile-an-hour fastball. Merker is eerily like Mike Stanton, who is leading the majors in saves. Merker and Stanton similar in a lot of respects. And Merker may not have the movement on his fastball that Stanton does, but his breaking ball very similar, and he throws harder.
Williams at first. He does not have a stolen base this year. He's tried twice. 2 runs in here in the Giant fifth. The lead is 5-1 for San Francisco. The 0-1 to Willie McGee. Just missed. Merker and Berryhill wanted that one. Merker wanted to participate in the World Series last year against Toronto, but did not play due to injury. He sustained a rib injury following Game 7 of the National League Championship Series, and that pile-up at home plate that you saw when they all jumped on top of Sid Bream. Kent was replaced on the World Series roster by David Need. Base hit. 4 hits in the inning for San Francisco. Williams to second. Willie McGee is 2 for 3 today.
Well, the Giants are plating runners today. Last night, 16 hits and scored only 4 times. They are maximizing their base hits today. They have had, coming into today's action, a .336 batting average, but they've lost 3 in a row, scoring only 10 runs and stranding 25.
Now Royce Clayton. 2 men on and 2 outs. Clayton takes a strike. He got off to a rocky start in the field. He still has a league-high 14 errors, but he's only made 1 error in the last 16 games, and Dusty Baker thinks he spent too much time doing weightlifting with his upper body, that he was top-heavy when the season began, and that caused him some difficulties in the field.
To lift weights to improve his power with the bat, and as a consequence, he was suffering mobility defensively. He is a great young talent, the #1 draft choice of the Giants, 15th selected in the nation back in 1988.
And as you can see, his fielding has greatly improved over the last 2.5 weeks.
Excuse me, Sean. Ron Gant, another weightlifter, and there are a number of weightlifters in the major leagues. And I think what organizations try to get guys to do is, if you're going to lift weights, make sure that you have the proper amount of stretching along with it. And it is not a, Whitey Herzog says, you know, the guys look great in the clubhouse, but the first thing, they reach for a ball, take that extension with the stride, all of a sudden you have a hamstring pull, a quadricep pull. Got proper stretching, that doesn't happen.
Certainly in recent years, it's been documented, the number of injuries way up. More and more players, record numbers on the disabled list, and many observers believe it is the increase in weightlifting that has led to all of the injuries. With all the great strength and conditioning coaching around the country, you would think if it was done right, it could be helpful without adding to the possibility of injury. 2 runs in here in the 5th and 2 more on base. Matt Williams at second, Willie McGee at first. 5-1 San Francisco. Royce Clayton at the plate, the 7th batter of the inning. In this inning, charged to the starter Pete Smith. Merker responsible for the 2 runners aboard. Change up missed high, and the count is full. And a long wait for Greg Brummett. Count is 2 balls and 2 strikes. Check swing, strike 3, says first base umpire Paul Reimer. That ends the inning. The Giants get 2 more, and halfway through the ball game, they lead the Braves 5-1. Earlier this week on Thursday, one of the classiest gentlemen ever to wear a Major League uniform, Dale Murphy, announced his retirement. Spent most of his career with the Braves. Came up just too short of 400 home runs for his career. Tried for a while this year with Colorado to get those two, but struggled with the Rockies and decided to hang it up. Bill Pacoda pinch hitting for the pitcher Merker. Facing Greg Brummett. 1 ball and 1 strike to count. Pacoda in his first year with the Braves is hitting .300 with 3 runs batted in. He's 2 for 7 as a pinch hitter. And the new pitcher for Atlanta when the Giants come up in the 6th will be Steve Bedrosian. Robbie Thompson throws. The fortunes have changed of late for a couple of managers in Major League Baseball. Tommy Lasorda with reason to smile. 10 straight wins. Longest streak for the Dodgers in that direction since 1980. And Hal McRae, since the tape recording and ashtray tossing tirade, things have turned around for the Royals. Hard to believe after a 2-9 start that Kansas City enters today's action just 2 games out of first in the AL West. Nixon 1 for 2. He doubled and was stranded at third in the 3rd. Giants lead 5-1 in the 5th. Kansas City, after starting 2-9, a game above 500 now at 23 and 22, and with Chicago's recent difficulties, the White Sox have lost 4 in a row and 8 out of 10. California, another pleasant surprise, moved back into first place.
It's funny, the American League West right now in the standings looks like the National League West did last year at this time, with the Atlanta Braves about 7.5 back and in 6th place. That was pre-expansion, of course. But you know, the Dodgers are doing it without Darryl Strawberry.
And Minnesota has been awful, but you look at the standings, they're only 6.5 out. If Tom Kelly can get his pitching together, despite how poorly they played, they're within a winning streak of getting right back into it. A lot of people now are saying, look out for Seattle. Robbie Thompson. Low shovel, scooped by Clark for the out. Now the Mariners have stayed within striking distance. They're only 3 games out. They played most of this year without Edgar Martinez, the batting champion of the league. Chris Bosio and Dave Fleming now back from injuries.
Nice shovel pass by Robbie Thompson right here to get Otis Nixon. Good play. Just a thought. Do you think if Lou Piniella was the manager of the Cincinnati Reds this year that he would have been canned after 44 games? No way.
Although undoubtedly it was because of the instability in that organization that he didn't want to stay there in the first place. We can only add our voices to those who have expressed anything from surprise to outrage at the firing of Tony Perez. And it has been nearly unanimous. 44 games is not much of an opportunity. And when you have Davey Johnson, Bobby Valentine, and Jack McKeon, 3 former managers, all on the payroll waiting in the wings, it was obvious that they were just waiting for the first chance to say Tony had failed before they replaced him. Bonds the catch. 1-2-3 go the Braves in the 5th, and we'll return to Atlanta Fulton County Stadium after this message and a word from your local station. Philadelphia, San Francisco, California, and Detroit are the leaders of baseball's 4 divisions at the moment, and they're each trying to author an impressive turnaround story in 1993. Those 4 teams finished a combined 70 games below 500 in 1992. Steve Bedrosian, the new pitcher, as we go to the 6th. He's the 3rd hurler of the afternoon for Atlanta. Manwaring with a ground ball to short. Belliard throws him out. Kurt Manwaring now 0 for 3.
Just 2 years ago in the World Series, representing Atlanta and representing Minnesota, 2 teams that had gone from last in 1990 to first in 1991. And this year we have 4 teams that are leading the divisions, last year and first in their divisions this year. You've heard of boxers who retire all the time. Well, Steve Bedrosian took last year off. He retired and then signed a Richmond contract in December of '92, made the club in spring training, and Bedrock is back.
At age 35, working to Greg Brummett, continues to enjoy a most impressive Major League debut. Brummett is struck out and popped to second. He'll be followed by Darren Lewis here in the 6th. The Giants lead 5-1. They've out-hit the Braves 7-5. Pete Smith started for Atlanta. He worked 4 innings plus 2 batters in the 5th. Allowed 5 runs on 5 hits, including 2 homers. He walked 3 and struck out 3 through 80 pitches. Kent Mercker pitched 1 inning, allowed 2 hits without allowing a run. He struck out 2. On Brummett, facing the 1987 Cy Young Award winner in the National League, and Bedrosian blew him away. New York's lead now 4-0 on a steal of home by Gerald Williams in the bottom of the 4th. Leyritz a 3-run homer. Montreal still trailing Chicago 4-2, now in the 6th at Wrigley. San Diego has gone to the 8th inning with a 6-1 lead at St. Louis. The Mets lead is a run over Cincinnati in the bottom of the 5th at Shea. Darren Lewis sent it to short. Belliard guns him down. The Giants go quickly in order in the 6th after 5.5 in Atlanta. San Francisco 5 and Atlanta 1. The Braves coming up in the 6th inning, trailing by 4 runs as they face Greg Brummett, who is making a very impressive Major League debut.
I think in the 3rd inning, when he had runners on at 1st and 3rd and nobody out, he got Terry Pendleton, and then he got Ron Gant to end the inning. David Justice sandwiched in between. I think that's, as far as this game is concerned, so far, that's when he matured.
Well, they talked about his poise and heart as 2 of his strengths coming in, and those are certainly proving to be more than cliches. Greg, a 4-pitch pitcher, sinking fastball. He says his slider is a little bit better than his curveball, and he has a good changeup.
He got David Justice on the changeup. Big pitch for him with runners at 1st and 3rd and 1 out.
Darren Lewis, the catch for the first out of the 6th. Terry Pendleton now 0 for 3. That'll bring up David Justice. Justice was the husband of the talented actress Halle Berry. She says from time to time on the drive to the stadium she tries to pick a fight with David because he plays better when he's a little bit agitated. The catch made by Royce Clayton. 2 down in the 6th. All of us at CBS Sports wish to send our condolences to the family and friends of Tom Lind, who passed away earlier this week. Tom was a technician who worked on our baseball coverage, and his talents extended into all of the events we covered. He will be missed by all of us, not just for his talent, but also for his friendship. Ron Gant took strike 1. He was struck out twice against Brummett. He talked about Bobby Cox juggling outfielders. For a while it was 3 outfielders into 2 spots. Nixon, Sanders, and Gant sharing the time in center and left. Now it's really Nixon and Sanders into center field with the way Gant has come on. Deion Sanders started in center last night. Otis Nixon in there today. But it appears it'll be Gant in left just about every night, and Justice certainly in right. For Gant. He came in 7 for his last 8, but Brummett in his debut has induced 3 strikeouts from Gant.
CBS Sports presents Major League Baseball. Today's game is brought to you by Toyota and their full line of quality cars and trucks. Coast Deodorant Soap, Coast the Eye Opener. And by MasterCard, it's more than a credit card, it's smart money.
Standings in the National League East entering today's play. Philadelphia still owns the best record in all of Major League Baseball at .696 for winning percentage. And they have the largest lead of any of the division leaders, 6 games over Montreal. Tim McCarver's pick at the start of the season, and they remain solidly Tim's choice in the East.
Well, Montreal's an awfully good club. They have the best outfield, I think, in the major leagues. Grissom, Alou, and Larry Walker in right field. And I think they can make a case for more speed, better defense than the Phillies. But the one thing the Phillies have right now is they know they can win. They have nothing with which to compare any part of the season to. They have won right from the get-go. There's 17 victories in April. The most wins ever by a team with 90 wins or 90 losses the year before. No team who finished in last place ever finished 4.5 games in front at the end of April. So I think the Phillies are legitimate. They have pitching problems. They have defensive problems at shortstop. 7 errors by their shortstops over a 3-game period this week. 7. 3 by Kim Batiste in one game. 3 by Juan Bell the next day. So they have some problems, things they need to shore up, but they're legitimate.
They are second to last in the league in fielding. Only San Diego has fared worse collectively. I believe the Dodgers aren't down there, but with their recent success, they've moved up to the middle of the pack in the National League in fielding. Anybody else other than Montreal that you think can come out of the pack to contend? Right now, everybody else, Chicago, St. Louis on down, at least 8 games back.
The Cardinals possibly. The Cubs possibly. Larry Himes, the general manager of the Cubs the other day, saying that he would expect the Cubs to be 10 games over 500 by the All-Star break. Interesting remark, and from a remark like that, you think with Jeff Torborg in the wings that a little extra pressure on Jimmy Lefebvre.
Yes.
Jeff Torborg hired by Larry Himes. They were the tandem general manager and manager when they were both with the White Sox. This ball rolling under the glove of Rafael Belliard. It's going to be scored a base hit. And you remember we talked about that slide when Thompson tagged at second. Last time going to third base, he eventually scored. And we talked about the lower back spasms, and he appears to be bothered by it, going down and getting that sinker from Bedrosian.
He isn't just extending the streak day after day with 1 hit, 3 hits, 2 hits. He had 2 hits today. 2 for 3 is Thompson. 2 singles and a walk. He scored 2 runs, driven in 1. He's on leading off the 7th. Giants trying to add to a 5-1 lead. Will Clark a bit upset that he fouled the first pitch away. He had a 2-run homer in the first. Has flied to left twice since. Base hit by Thompson, the 8th hit of the game for San Francisco. The first surrendered by Bedrosian, who came on last inning and worked a 1-2-3-6. Tim mentioned that Bedrosian was a non-roster invitee to the Braves spring training, had to earn a spot on the roster, and he is still aware that his position on the staff is a bit precarious. Mark Wohlers has been down in the minors. He has major league ability, certainly, and some feel it's just a matter of time before he comes back, and when he does, it could well be Bedrosian, who is the odd man out. He hasn't pitched very often. This is the 13th game in which he's appeared, but he's only pitched a total of 10 innings this season. He's made a comeback from a problem in his pitching hand. He had numbness in fingers on his right hand. He believes was caused by the use of smokeless tobacco products. He has broken himself of that habit. Circulation has returned to his fingers. Best news of all for Steve Bedrosian and his family that his son Cody, 5 years old, and undergoing chemotherapy treatments for leukemia, is doing so well that they've stopped the chemotherapy, and he's just fine. Out of play. Still 1-2 on Clark. Talked about the trade rumors involving Otis Nixon. There have been some mumblings about the possibility of Will Clark going elsewhere, including to the Atlanta Braves, and you heard some mumblings about the Mets.
Yep. New York, the New York Mets, certainly one team heard in the rumor, but I think the main thing you have to do now is distinguish rumor from fact. I don't think if the San Francisco Giants remain in contention that there is any way they're going to trade Will Clark or even entertain ideas. I mean, this guy has been a thorough professional for the Giants since signing back in 1985.
To center field, drifting toward left center with room Nixon. One out. Thompson trying to move up, and he does. Aggressive play with his team up by 4 runs. Robbie Thompson, for the second time today, moves up 90 feet on a fly ball to left or left center.
I'm sure Dusty Baker, who was preaching aggressive base running all spring, is happy that he took the extra base, but he's also hoping that it's not at the expense of Robbie Thompson's back. And now he's bending over at second base, and you got to believe his back's giving him problems.
Dusty looking out in that direction. One out, a runner at second in the 7th inning. Giants 5 and the Braves 1. Matt Williams, the hitter. Popped out of play first base side. And quite a turnaround for Matt Williams from a year ago. It was 2/3 of his RBI total of last year already this season. He's improved in every area. Bobby Bonds has been a big help to Matt Williams, as has Barry, obviously. But you hear the talk about Barry. You don't hear as much talk about the relationship between Bobby Bonds, the hitting coach, and Matt Williams. There's Bobby Bonds, particularly animated when Williams is up at the plate, trying to get Matt to stay back and relax. Swing and a miss, 0-2.
I tell you, you see Bobby Bonds at, you know, I don't necessarily agree with that particular thing. It's like a pitching coach telling a pitcher on every pitch what he's doing wrong. I think once the game's underway, or at least between at-bats, a hitting instructor can come over and talk to a hitter about it. But during an at-bat, obviously it's working for Williams and Bonds, that combination. But it's very unusual.
Little roller along first. Bedrosian looked at third, threw out Williams at first base. Now Barry Bonds strolling to the plate. He'll be coming to a theater near you this summer. The movie to be released later this summer. Rookie of the Year pits a 12-year-old against Barry Bonds. You can guess who wins. It was the last time Bonds struck out as a Pirate. Barry's scene was filmed just prior to his signing with the Giants. That's why he was still in a Pirate uniform. Moved to third on the roller by Williams. He's there with 2 outs. Had a count of 0-1 on Bonds. Was walked, homered, and struck out. Boy, they never played a clip of our appearance in the big movie we were in last year.
We weren't on camera.
No. They wanted to sell tickets. But our voices were on the screen in Mr. Baseball. Tom Selleck got a little bit upset, I was told, when the theaters around the country had on the marquee Mr. Baseball, starring Tim McCarver and Sean McDonough, with Tom Selleck.
With Tom Selleck.
He was not the least bit pleased. His paycheck was a lot better, though. Line strikes out. Nothing wrong with his check either. 7th inning stretch Atlanta. 5-1 in favor of the visiting team. This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of Major League Baseball and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form without the express written consent of Major League Baseball. Sid Bream leads off. 7th inning. Greg Brummett spinning a beauty in his Major League debut. He's allowed 1 run on 5 hits through 6 innings. He's retired 7 in a row. Hasn't allowed a hit since the 3rd. Bream stings one to right. McGee on the track. Can't get it. It's off his glove and off the wall, and Bream is in the second with a leadoff double.
Try by Willie McGee, and nice hitting by Sid Bream right off the finger of the glove, the thumb of the glove, if you will, of Willie McGee. I wouldn't imagine it's going to take much to get the Giant bullpen going because of their top 2, Mike Jackson and Rod Beck.
Still no movement in the pen for San Francisco at the moment. Damon Berryhill takes the looping breaking ball high. He's had a perfect day against Brummett. The single in the 2nd. He walked in the 4th. Rafael Belliard on deck. Brummett working to the bottom part of the order. Berryhill, the number 7 hitter. Brummett has only thrown 70 pitches, and he's working with a week of rest. His last start was last Saturday for AAA Phoenix.
And it is true that when sinker ball pitchers get tired, a lot of times they become more effective. The reason for that is they don't rely on velocity but movement, and they have to keep the ball down, and sometimes when you're tired, that's ball ends up sinking as a result of little velocity. But there's a stirring in the Giant pen, and you had to figure it's going to be Mike Jackson warming for the Giants.
It is indeed. Berryhill sends it out of play, 3rd base side. There's Jackson. Leads the majors in appearances with 29. 2 balls and 2 strikes on the Atlanta catcher. Popped up. Williams right along the line makes room for the shortstop Clayton. They roll it in fair territory for the first out of the 7th. We remind you that following baseball here on CBS, it's 3rd round coverage of the Southwestern Bell Colonial Golf Classic from the Colonial Country Club in Fort Worth. Dick Mast has moved into a tie with Fulton Allen early in round 3. Keith Clearwater has picked up a stroke. The Southwestern Bell Colonial Classic from Fort Worth next on CBS Sports. Deion Sanders has moved into the on-deck circle to bat for the pitcher as Rafael Belliard stands in.
Matt Williams alert for a bunt in this situation. Belliard not a powerful hitter.
And you would think that Jeff Blauser must not be available at all today, even the pinch hitter playing the field, because they'd be hitting for Belliard here.
And Willie McGee in right field. You see Matt Williams shallow, and that's proper. Willie McGee, the right fielder, way too deep. Belliard no power at all the other way.
Chopped to short. They did not tag Bream. He made it back to 2nd. Clayton threw to 1st for the 2nd out of the inning.
Nice play by Clayton. The wherewithal to try to touch Bream. He just missed him, and he throws Belliard out at 1st.
Deion Sanders, who played in his first home game since returning to the Braves last night, was the leadoff hitter and was greeted by a warm ovation. A couple of boos as he was introduced today, but for the most part, cheers. Sanders batting for Bedrosian. Deion, a .283 hitter this year. He's 3 for 7 as a pinch hitter, including a pinch hit home run. Ruled badly on the first pitch. Out in front was Sanders, 1 strike. Deion went 2 for 5 last night and stole a base. He returned to the Braves 8 days ago. After sitting out for nearly a month. Came back with a 3-year, $11 million contract. He has to stay with the Braves until the completion of the baseball season, including the postseason, and then he is free to go play football if he so chooses.
In past years, on July 31st, his contract ended and he joined the Atlanta Falcons in the football camp.
Two and two.
.24, his number in baseball. 21, his number in football. Good thing he doesn't play any more sports.
I thought those might refer to how much those things weighed in pounds.
Graham.
Still 2 and 2. And as you mentioned, Tim, this will continue to be a dilemma for Bobby Cox, working Nixon and Sanders in there regularly. Another 2-2 pitch. Just outside. Deion has worked the count from 0-2 to 3-2. Developing story at Yankee Stadium, where Jim Abbott of the Yankees is working on a no-hitter through 6 innings against the struggling White Sox. Payoff pitch, fouled straight back.
Bobby Cox's dilemma in working with Sanders, Nixon, Gann, and Justice. He certainly realizes that 2 fine young prospects are now playing with Richmond. Tony Tarasco, up earlier in the year, he took Sanders' place, and also Melvin Nieves. Fine outfield, very, very deep. If Atlanta has a problem with their catching staff, they bring up Javier Lopez. The shortstop, Chipper Jones, is almost ready to play in the big leagues. So the Braves not only deep on their major league roster, but deep throughout their system.
Another 3-2 pitch. And Deion is still alive. Terry Pendleton will not talk about the incident Wednesday night when he walked off the field in Cincinnati, but the newspaper here in Atlanta yesterday quoted some teammates of Pendleton as saying he was upset because he felt that the failure of Marvin Freeman to throw at Tim Belcher didn't show any respect for Deion Sanders. It was Sanders who had been hit by Belcher earlier in the game. But the rest of the Braves felt that the score was even because Maddox threw up and in at one of the Reds. There's a hit for Sanders. Green comes around, and all of a sudden it's a 3-run game, 5-2. Terrific at bat for Deion Sanders. He fell behind 0-2, worked it to 3-2, fouled off several pitches, and then delivered the RBI hit.
He hits it off the end of the bat, but it finds a hole. And Sanders with an RBI. Mentioned delivering that hit, and that's also going to deliver Dusty Baker to the mound, and I think that may be all for Greg Brummett.
Saw Deion look skyward and clap. He says he is dedicating the rest of this season to his father, who passed away last month. Deion said his departure from the Braves was a combination of his frustration over lack of playing time and the grief associated with the death of his father. A terrific Major League debut by Greg Brummett. He leaves, handing a 5-2 lead to Mike Jackson.
Have you ever borrowed a book from thousands of miles away? Across the country?
Gesture ahead. Take next.
Without stopping for directions?
Route 101.
Or sent someone a fax? From the beach? You will. And the company that'll bring it to you, AT&T.
What a fine debut for Greg Brummett. 25 years old from Wichita. Dancing in the streets of Wichita right now. Fine job. 6 2/3, 7 hits, 2 runs. And of course, if Deion Sanders scores, that will be charged against the record of Greg Brummett. Mike Jackson, his 30th appearance of the year. He'll try to hold it for Rod Beck.
He leads the majors in appearances. This one might be very brief. Otis Nixon, the comebacker, and that ends the inning. 1 run for Atlanta in the 7th. We head to the 8th. The Giants with a 3-run lead. If you're just joining us, the Giants got off and running in the top of the first. A 2-run homer by Will Clark off the starter Pete Smith. Barry Bonds also homered off Smith in the 3rd. The Atlanta runs on RBI singles by Mark Lemke in the 3rd and Deion Sanders in the 7th. 4th pitcher of the day for Atlanta is Marvin Freeman, 6'7" right-hander, on the corner with strike 1 to Willie McGee.
Only the 10th appearance of the year for Marvin Freeman, 1-0 on the season. And as Sean mentioned earlier, he was the pitcher that Terry Pendleton, whose wrath was directed when he didn't knock down Tim Belcher to lead off the 7th inning at Riverfront Stadium in Cincinnati the other night. I mean, you know, in that eye for an eye mentality that is, you know, governs the rules or that particular ethics of the game.
Belliard has to hurry. Nice play on the move by Raphael. 1 out.
I agree with what you said earlier, Sean. I mean, Chris Sabo was knocked down by Greg Maddux after he hit a home run earlier in the game. And then Tim Belcher coming inside to Deion Sanders. He ended up hitting him. Obviously, anytime you come inside, chance of hitting somebody, ball takes off on you or whatever. And I think that's what Marvin Freeman thought, that the deal's already over.
That's right.
You know, an eye for an eye. It's finished. No need to pursue it any longer.
Well, both Bobby Cox, the manager, and John Sherholtz, the general manager, said that if there was a score to be settled, it already was settled.
Yeah.
And Deion Sanders, who was hit by the Belcher pitch, said he didn't feel that Belcher was throwing at him intentionally.
He did slam the bat down after he was hit, but he said that was more of his football mentality.
Line to short and caught. Royce Blakeman now 0 for 4. Of course, it was uncharacteristic, bizarre behavior on the part of Terry Pendleton, who is widely acknowledged as the on-the-field leader of this Atlanta team. But as Bobby Cox said, he just snapped.
I think a line to bring back. He gave new meaning to the intentional walk.
Yes, indeed. Or as some have said, now here in Atlanta, they're keeping track of complete games by a third baseman. Kurt Manwaring out of Coastal Carolina played his college baseball for the Chanticleers, one of the great nicknames in college athletics. His coach for 1 season at Coastal Carolina was Bobby Richardson.
They were in the final 64 this year. NCAA basketball. Bobby Richardson from Sumter, South Carolina. And what a great player he was for the New York Yankees. Double play combination of Tony Kubek, Bobby Richardson.
3-0 the count. And the Chanticleer walks. And lurking on the leaderboard, the great white shark. Perhaps we should be playing the theme from Jaws in the background of this promo for the Southwestern Bell Colonial Golf Classic. It would be helpful if they would shorten the name of that event in future years. It's coming up next that tournament from Fort Worth.
Use an acronym.
Yes. That would be a hard one. We need a vowel or two in there, though. Mike Jackson, 0 for 1 this year, batting with 2 outs. And Manwaring aboard at first. In the 8th inning, 5-2, San Francisco. 0-2 the count. Bobby Cox and John Schuerholz fined Terry Pendleton for the episode Wednesday night in Cincinnati. An undisclosed amount. He still has not remorse. How about Jackson, the pitcher, lining one to left? His first hit of the year. Manwaring will be waved around with 2 outs. Belliard's relay to the plate, not in time. A double for Mike Jackson and another run for the Giants. They lead 6-2.
First RBI for Mike Jackson. Obviously, in most instances, Jackson would be pinch hit for in that situation. But because it's only the 8th inning instead of the 9th, he's allowed to hit for himself and helps his club.
That is just the 3rd major league hit of Mike Jackson's career and his first ever run batted in. And he's in scoring position. Darren Lewis took a strike on the inner 3rd. He's 1 for 3, a double, and a run scored in the 5th. He also walked back in the 2nd. Well, that's a run that really hurts if you're the Atlanta Braves. Freeman retired the first 2, was working the 8 and 9 batters, walked the number 8 man, and the pitcher doubles. Now a hit for Lewis. Jackson will be stopped at 3rd. But they airmail the cutoff man, and into 2nd goes Lewis. Nixon with a terrible throw into the infield, and as a result, Lewis was able to take 2nd base.
There are priorities in this game, and I think the priority of Wendell Kim, the 3rd base coach, to hold up Mike Jackson. The Giants can ill afford to lose him. But this more like an infield fly that Otis Nixon throws in from the outfield, allowing Darren Lewis to easily go to 2nd base. Terrible throw by Nixon.
Robbie Thompson extended his hitting streak to 19 games with 2 singles today. He's driven in a run and scored 2. Giants had 16 hits in losing last night. They have 9 more today. And they lead 6-2 in the 8th inning. 2 men in scoring position with 2 outs. Thompson sends it back in this direction. Action in the Atlanta bullpen. Jay Howell is warming up. Just missed. The runner at 3rd is Mike Jackson, and at 2nd, Darren Lewis. 1 run in. All of this has happened with 2 outs. A good outing today by Steve Bedrosian for Atlanta. He pitched 2 innings without allowing a run. He yielded only 1 hit and struck out 2. Updating the story in New York, Jim Abbott is working on a no-hitter now through 7 innings. He has walked 3 and struck out 5 against the White Sox. They still lead 4-zip. Thompson has worked the count from 0-2 to 3-2.
Great expectations of Jim Abbott after the trade from California. Off to a slow start, only 3-5, and what a shot in the arm that would be for the Yankees. He could pitch a no-hitter today.
Lenke takes the catch. 1 run for the Giants in the 8th. And And we go to the bottom of the 8th. 6-2 San Francisco. Well, Jim Abbott working on a no-hitter through 7 today, and in the bullpen here in Atlanta today, you just saw him, Dave Righetti, the last man to pitch a 9-inning no-hitter at Yankee Stadium. July 4th of '83 against the Red Sox. He walked 4 and struck out 9 in pitching the no-hitter.
Prior to that, the last no-hitter pitched at Yankee Stadium by Don Larson in 1956, and everybody remembers that, who is of age. A perfect game in the World Series. Yogi Berra, the catcher.
That no-hitter for Righetti was against the Boston Red Sox. Andy Hawkins threw a no-hitter for the Yankees on the road at Comiskey against the White Sox. Today's opponents, Jim Abbott, July 1st of 1990.
And lost.
Yes, indeed.
4 unearned runs, I believe, in the 8th inning of that game at Old Comiskey Park.
Mike Jackson working to Mark Lemke, the leadoff man in the home half of the 8th. Giants lead 6-2. A bullet and a right. Lemke is 2 for 4 with a pair of singles.
Talking about the Yankees, Detroit, a 4-game lead over the Yankees. Actually, New York and Toronto tied 4 back. Boston 4.5 back. Milwaukee's kind of hanging in there. Phil Garner's crew. A roster that was decimated over the winter with free agents leaving. Paul Molitor, the most notable.
And certainly the Orioles rank as one of the biggest disappointments in Major League Baseball to date.
Won't be disappointing there July 14th of this year, though. Not in that town.
Camden Yards, the site of the All-Star game. Come your way here on CBS. Terry Pendleton 0 for 3. He is dropping back close to the 200 mark again. He's at 205 at the moment. Started to say last inning, Terry Pendleton still has not expressed any remorse for walking off the field on Wednesday night. He said the rumor around the Braves clubhouse was that he did it not so much because they didn't retaliate against the Reds, but that it was a lack of respect he felt toward Deion Sanders, the player who had been hit. And some of the Braves were privately and publicly grumbling about Deion when he left the team and came back with a new contract. It was not entirely the era of good feeling for Deion with his mates as it was last year when there was so much controversy during the playoffs. Pendleton in the hole 0-2. Justice to follow. That's well hit to center. On the way to the wall, Lewis at the wall. He makes the catch. Lemke went most of the way to second. He's back to first with 1 out.
Fine play by Darren Lewis. And Terry Pendleton has flied out 4 times today. Twice to left, twice to center. And usually if you're not a home run hitter, that's one of the indications of a slump. And what you do during a slump, you're not getting on top of the ball. Your hands aren't strong enough to get on top of the ball. They hit down on the ball. Arms are lazy. And Terry Pendleton, sure enough, today 2 opposite field fly balls and 2 to center, even though he did hit that last ball very well.
David Justice moved off the plate with the first pitch from Jackson. Justice 1 for 3 today, a 2nd inning single. He has popped the short twice since then. Bounce foul toward the Atlanta dugout. Giants closer warming up in their bullpen. usually doesn't use Beck for more than 4 outs. Just off the plate, 2-1 on Justice.
We talked about Will Clark's finish earlier in the ball game after that home run. Well, David Justice, one of the purest swings in baseball.
Fouled off his foot. 2-2.
He doesn't have the extension that Clark has, but he has a sweet swing.
A packed house. Now there are a number of empty seats around Atlanta Fulton County Stadium, with the Braves trailing by 4, 1 out in the 8th inning. A runner at first. The 2-2 struck him out. First strikeout for Mike Jackson. He's pitched 1 inning.
Not a pure example of a sweet swing, but David Justice in the power category doing very well, but not as far as his average is concerned. Remember, the Atlanta Braves entered today's action 12th in the National League in hitting as far as their batting average is concerned.
Boston underway at Fenway against Texas. Andre Dawson with an RBI double. Montreal has overtaken Chicago. Will Cordero has driven in 4 runs. San Diego 7 and St. Louis 4, a final. Fred McGriff and Derek Bell hit home runs. The Mets still lead Cincinnati 4-3 in the 8th. And Philadelphia scored 15 runs last night at Colorado, has 4 already. Darren Dalton another RBI and a sacrifice fly. Mulholland Blair the starters in Denver. Gant with a pop-up. Bonds dropped the ball. Lemke on to score. It's 6-3.
The second error of the year for Barry Bonds, the other against the New York Mets. And a lot of people criticize the way, about the only thing you can criticize about Barry Bonds is sometimes when he makes the catch, he hot dogs it. I don't think that was the case there, but his first error he made against the Mets, that was definitely the case.
Now Bream, a little pop-up foul. Looked like he was aware of Lewis coming on quickly behind him, but
yeah,
still he should have made the catch.
Yeah, I don't think that that was the case there. This is clearly an error, and he was not trying to give that slap catch, the kind of catch that Ricky Henderson does often. We saw it earlier in the game, but I agree with you. I think Lewis was the guy that he was more concerned with.
One strike on Bream. Now the tying run is in the on-deck circle. Bonds with another chance. And still
that tight.
Yep, the hot dog catch in the inning. 1 run in the 8th. We go to the 9th. Giants by 3. We hope you'll be tuned to CBS Sports 1 week from today at 1 Eastern time as we bring you first round coverage of the 1993 College World Series from Rosenblatt Stadium in Omaha, Nebraska. Greg Gumbel and Jim Cott will be joined on our coverage this year by Ron Frazier, a retired outstanding former coach at the University of Miami. Leslie Visser will also be in Omaha for CBS Sports. 9th inning, 3-run lead for the Giants. They'll try to add to it as they face the 5th Atlanta hurler of the ball game, Jay Howell.
Jay 1-2, his 18th appearance. Former Dodger, formerly with the New York Yankees, the Oakland Athletics. Battled back from arm problems last year, and sometimes that takes a while. Mentioned Steve Bedrosian earlier. Well, Jay Howe, similar problems, even though he didn't lay out a full year.
pitch from Howell, a strike, and at Yankee Stadium, Bo Jackson ended Jim Abbott's bid for a no-hitter after 7 1/3 innings. With 1 out in the 8th, Bo Jackson with a single to end the no-hit bid of Abbott. The Yankees still lead the White Sox 4-0. Will Clark in the hole 0-2. He's 1 for 4 with the first inning 2-run homer. He's 2 for 5 with a 9th inning single. Hits for San Francisco. Now Matt Williams. 1 for 4. He drove in a run with a single to center in the 5th. He'll be followed by Barry Bonds. In the bottom of the 9th, when the Braves will need at least 3 to tie, they have the bottom third of their order due up. Berryhill, Belliard, and the pitcher. Strike on Williams. He said last year when he was struggling, everyone was offering advice, including then Giants general manager Al Rosen. Occasionally dropped by the clubhouse with some batting tips. Now he works exclusively with Bobby Bonds, and as we mentioned earlier, it's a relationship that has really paid off for Williams. It took Bobby Bonds a while to get back into the game as a coach. He last coached for Cleveland in 1987. Dusty Baker, who brought him back to Major League coaching.
See Bobby reminding Williams about just relaxing right there, that you know, check up from the neck up. That's usually what causes slumps. It's not a mechanical dysfunction of a hitter, but it's what's sitting on the shoulders. The Giants been a big success on the field this year, Tim, but at the box office they're starting to draw. At a crowd of 54,000 last week. They've done some nice things at Candlestick to make it a more appealing place for the fans. Those bleachers in left field become an instant smash and a haven for the many admirers of Barry Bonds in the Bay Area. Close pitch, called a ball. Well, and plus the realization that they almost lost a Major League franchise, and the appreciation to have them back. Didn't realize what they had possibly until they almost lost the Giants to Tampa Bay last year, and I think that was responsible for that rejuvenation of baseball and Candlestick in particular.
A double play ball. And they turn it. Lemke is as good as there is at turning the double play. Twice he put on a clinic last night with Clark barreling into him, and again it was Clark coming at him in this instance.
Most of the time when you try to take Lemke out of a double play, you take out what was there. Air. The Phantom. Julian Javier, the best I ever saw at cheating at second base, the neighborhood play, coming across the bag, getting in position to throw, and turning the double play. Lemke is superb at doing that.
One strike on Barry Bonds. He's had kind of an up-and-down day. He has the solo homer in the 3rd with the error that led to a run in the bottom of the 8th. He struck out his last 2 times up. He's at an even 400 at the moment. 0-2 the count. Two outs, top of the 9th, 6-3 San Francisco. Strike 3, Bonds thought was inside. He strikes out for the 3rd straight at bat. We go to the bottom of the 9th. The Giants 6 and the Braves 3.
CBS Sports presents Major League Baseball. Today's game is brought to you by Toyota and their full line of quality cars and trucks. Toyota, I love what you do for me. Wendy's old-fashioned hamburgers, the best hamburgers, and a whole lot more. And by Russ Tough from Krylon. Got rust? Get tough. Russ Tough.
Rico Carty, 23 years ago, the last National League player who was batting .400 entering the month of June. He went on to finish the year as the batting champion of the National League with a .366 average. Well, Barry Bonds has a chance to do it. The strikeouts his last 3 at-bats, he has dipped to .398. The last Major League player to enter the month of June hitting .400 or better, Wade Boggs, in 1986. Of course, John Oldroyd could be there as well. He's hitting .391 entering today's play. Here's Rod Beck trying to save it for Greg Brummett. First pitch, a ball to Damon Berryhill. Bottom third, Berryhill, Belliard, and the pitcher due up. Berryhill, a single and a walk in 3 plate appearances. 1 for 2 officially. That's to Bonds again. The snap was a little later that time. It was totally nestled into the glove. Tonight on CBS begins with Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman. That's a CBS special, the Essence Award, celebrating the achievements of 8 distinguished African-American women. It all starts at 8 p.m. Eastern right here on CBS. Rafael Belliard 0 for 3. Chopped to short. Bobbled by Clayton. Strong arm helps him recover. And Dusty Baker told us yesterday that many of those errors, the 14 that lead the league, were on those types of ground balls. Easy plays that he just didn't concentrate fully enough.
A lot of times that is the case with the real good athletes, and Clayton is certainly that. The routine plays, you have a chance to think a little bit too much. On the reaction plays, you do them very smoothly. An example of that, one of the best third baseman that ever lived, Mike Schmidt, was a guy who had more of a tendency to make an error on a routine play and on a play where he had to range wide.
So the Giants 1 out away from evening the series in 1 win apiece. Dusty Baker made a friend behind the dugout. He fielded the chopper from Francisco Cabrera, flipped it into the stands. Cabrera. There will be no 9th inning heroics for Francisco this time. Bonds puts it away. Beck works a routine 1-2-3 9th. And San Francisco now leads Atlanta by 4 games in the National League West. Greg Brummett, a winner in his major league debut. He went 6 2/3 innings and allowed just 2 runs. Pete Smith, the loser, he's 2 4. Beck to save his 12th. And the Chevrolet player of the game is Greg Brummett. Congratulations to Greg in his first major league outing, his first major league win. He only walked 1 over those 6 2/3 innings while striking out 3. Ron Gant, the strikeout victim, all 3 times. Chevrolet will donate $1,000 in the name of Greg Brummett to the Special Olympics. Another bright spot of this day, Will Clark, with his first home run since April 10th, a 2-run homer in the first inning that got them off and running. Robbie Thompson extended his hitting streak to 19 games, longest in the majors this year. So with the win, the San Francisco Giants go to 32-18. The Braves drop to 28-22. And the 4-game lead of San Francisco is restored. They're now in first place for the 19th consecutive day. You had to be very impressed with Greg Brummett today, Tim.
Through strikes, 6 2/3 innings, giving up only 7 hits. And back in the 3rd inning, that was the key inning as far as Brummett was concerned, with the score 3-1, 1 run already in. Terry Pendleton, David Justice, and Ron Gant went out without moving the runners along. Runners at first and third, nobody out, the meat of the order up, and that's where Brummett, that bulldog tenacity that Gene Stevenson was talking about earlier in the game. And I wonder if he'll go to the Wichita State game tonight.
I would imagine that he would. They're playing over at Georgia Tech. An important win, too, for the Giants. It snaps their longest losing streak of the year at 3 games. And they certainly have the sense that the Braves are coming on. The Giants still in many people's minds a question mark. It does not appear that they are in their own minds. But this was a win that is very helpful for them to have.
A bit of a stiff arm, if you will.
San Francisco left 8 men on base today. Atlanta stranded 6. Bonds homered in addition to the round tripper by Will Clark. Do you see signs now? Clark 2 for 5 again today after 3 hits last night. Do you see signs of the old Will Clark stroke returning?
Well, it's early. About 2 weeks ago, Terry Pendleton was batting under 200. He had about 5 straight games where he appeared to come out of it, and now he's back in. He was 0 for 4 today. So, you know, hitting, just like pitching, is a game of rationalization. Do I think Will Clark will end up the season batting below 250? No chance.
And again today, the Giants bullpen. We talked about Jackson and Beck, and they worked as they've worked all season long.
Yeah, I think with Dusty Baker, what he's trying to do right now is to get his pitchers at least to the 6th inning, to have a well-rested Jackson, a well-rested Beck. That is where the strength, as far as the Giants pitching is concerned, that's where it lies.
And certainly it is Memorial Day weekend, very early in the season, and folks on both sides quick to downplay the importance of this series, but they rested Clark, Bonds, and Thompson in the last game of their series at Chicago prior to coming to Atlanta. Did the San Francisco Giants. Coming up next, 3rd round coverage of the Southwestern Bell Colonial Golf Classic. Fulton Alum, who was the leader after 2 rounds, has restored his lead to 3 shots. For Tim McCarver, Sean McDonough saying so long from Atlanta Fulton County Stadium. The final score, San Francisco 6 and Atlanta 3. You've been watching Major League Baseball on CBS Sports, home of the biggest games in baseball.